Hi, my name's Craig. I'm an alcoholic, and here's a bit of my story. Uh, well, I was born at a very young age, of course, and I was born to quite a normal, everyday family. Two brothers and sisters, or two brothers and a sister. Mum didn't work, and as she was a stay-at-home mum, of course, like a very traditional. Dad worked quite a few jobs. Um, I found out later in life, my mum was quite concerned about me getting on because her father was an alcoholic, and I didn't know for quite a long time. Um, she used to bring that up only when I had my benders, and I was a bit of a naughty kid. I never stole anything, but I used to always be the class clown and sort of the funny boy, I suppose, and sort of didn't really feel like I fitted in with everyone, even though I sort of wasn't, particularly unusual. But yeah, just like, just don't know, I always felt a bit different, a bit overly, more emotional than other kids as far as like laughing and all that sort of thing. And my parents always said I talked a lot, and it's funny. When you go to do a talk and you say I can't talk for 20 minutes, my parents would laugh. Craig could talk the leg off a chair, and I was stuck with it. So I could have done well at school, but I was too interested in being a clown. I wasn't silly. I've since found out I could have done really well, but I went through, I suppose, till about we started drinking at probably 12, 13. At met a mate from school, and his parents were extremely liberal that let him smoke. I thought this is cool, and even let us drink. But every time we drank, I got really really written off, and I couldn't have one. One's like a complete waste, I suppose. I thought I'd sit down and have a beer. That wasn't really, So when I was about 15 years old, was involved in a fatal car accident where I was meant to be sitting in this part of the ute where my mate was, and ute rolled over in the country, and he died, and the other guys that were with me, they ran away because I didn't even know they stole the car, and I wasn't having any part of that. But it was, he died. I was with him when he died, so I sort of things like that. I think that was a catalyst for me being able to get drunk, and people would say, "Oh, he's just had a hard time. He's lost his mate," and all that sort of thing. I could, I suppose, get away with it. It was a, and then I got my license the second I could, and I was out about on my motorbike, and I was ran into a few different things. I was, always used to, drink and drink and drive all the time when I was young. Tried now when I got older and my motorbikes got faster, I didn't. But it was always, I think, drinking was a massive part of my teens, I suppose. I was always, I'd get drunk as often as I could. But a lot of my mates did as well, so it didn't really stand out. And I remember once, before I had to do this, I was thinking I had a girlfriend once. I was in town at a pub and picked up this girl, and we'd go to see my mate. She liked to go on a bike, so I was go see a mate. And we'd had a few, and we'd seen each other a few times. And I remember his girlfriend saying to me, "Oh, she says you're a nice bloke, but she said, if you want to keep her, you get off the." She says you get really drunk a lot. I said, "Yeah, but I'm cool." Okay? And that's what cool blokes on motorbikes do. They get pissed, and I actually ended up having a son when I was only 19 years old, and that was more turmoil. I worked for my dad, and I think having a lot of responsibility with my dad at the job, and I started boxing, and it's actually all that stuff there that kept me, I think. Basically, I had to go to work and train and everything, so it kept the drinking at bay. But when I was 23, I lost part of my eyesight, so I had to lose my job. I tried to paint, but it wasn't much cool for legally blind spray painters. And yes, I I actually hit a bit of a rock bottom, and not the rock bottom that I needed to quit drinking. That came 20 years later. So from there was a lot of drinking and fighting, and because I'm not blind, but I've lost part of my central vision. So it was hard to work, so I had an excuse to stay home. And I think for 12 or 18 months, I just drank every day, because there was a guy that finished work at 2 o'clock, a German guy, and we'd hit the piss together. So, yeah, eventually, like another relationship, she left because I was just a bit of a loser. And, yeah, I all along this, I had a mate as well that didn't work, and we'd get drunk together. I said, it's all right, we can have a beer. If you don't have a beer, you're not a man, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I used to get written off a lot. So along came many different jobs, because I got into sales and I had a lot of potential. I used to have a lot of jobs for a while, and then I wouldn't have them anymore, because I'd get drunk and not turn up to work. Not on Monday, but so a lot of Mondays, I suppose. But just wasn't an ultra reliable cat. But more often than not, a lot of people said to me that I was working, have you been drinking? I'd be like, no, I'd smell, because when you don't, I don't think I had an alcohol-free day for ever. You try and think when it was, and it just wasn't. I'd meet someone, because I've through my life, we've not been engaged like 4 times. So because I'm funny, I think I am. People think I am anyway, and I can communicate. I'm very good at picking up and chatting up women, and like, hey, how you going? And I can be personable and all the rest of it. And but then after a while, they just get sick of your drinking. And I like working, and I'd work as much as I could. And quite often, a lot of my jobs were 6 days a week, so I'd leave my job to afford my alcohol. And I had another breakup in around 1999 on a 6-year relationship, because it just went down the toilet. They just get sick of you after a while, just embarrassing you, them in places. And my son, we were fairly close, but I remember I'll fast forward, but he doesn't talk to me anymore, because he doesn't believe that I'd stop drinking, because we got on really well. But quite often, if I'd come over on a Sunday, I'd just crash out the lounge for 2 hours, and I'd be good at that. But there was many times where I'd just be the embarrassing pissed guy. So I bought my own house in that year 2000, and I've been there ever since. But like I said, I've been through many relationships and jobs, and the final straw was about 10 years ago, when I had an incident with my son that stopped seeing me about 2 years before that, because we came over one day, we had this massive argument, and we had a fight, and I lost it. And but it's just second or third time I'll probably say I think that that had happened, and from being very close mates, he was only being a pisshead. And so alcohol is a great remover. It removes friends, families, a lot of things. And I think enough is enough. My parents used to come here. I remember once, I've got a video of it, and I've had beer cans, about 200 of them, around the counter and on the table, and cigarette butts flying. And I remember I had a bird in a bird cage on top of a cupboard, and he kept getting out. So I put him back in, and he kept getting out. And I didn't realise the top of the cage was open. And I was that pissed. I did it about 30 times. I was in a bender for about 3 days. Like, part of the time it moved out. And not completely, just until I apparently got my shit together. And that was never going to happen while I was drinking. But I just kept putting this bird back in there. I just remember my parents came over to visit. Mum said, you're an alcoholic. I said, no, I'm not. Sitting there with this 300 beers everywhere. I've looked back at the video, they would have been 150. It was 5 or 6 cartons of beer, and that was a 3-day session. But it went from there, like at the worst point, I was probably drinking a litre of bourbon a day, and people say, and even now I look back, I can't drink that much. But I went to the bottle shop a year and a half after I stopped drinking, and the pool at the bottle shop actually, so I was never rude to them because that was my place of supply. And Paul said to me, he goes, "Oh, hey, have a look at this." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Well, this is last October, and this is this October." And the rep from the bourbon place said, "Well, things are down. What's happening?" And he said, "Well, Craig doesn't visit anymore." And I said, "Yes, funny, are they?" He goes, "No, when you're spending about $300 a week on bourbon, the old bottle shop certainly notices the decline in sales." And I said, "Oh, shit, well, have a drink for a year." And he goes, "Good on you, man." That was funny because everyone used to go in there and like abuse him. I was just friendly to him, just look, so you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. Well, drugs were a massive part of my story as well, but not as much as drinking. I'd, get on the weekends on the cocaine, the ecstasy, the speed, the whatever, who cares? But I could sort of say no to that quite easily and not do it for many years. So alcohol was like the catalyst to everything, and it's actually funny since I gave up drinking, nothing's really bothered me anymore. So I suppose fast forward to 2014, after my massive bender, and I had a big argument with my partner at the time, and I wasn't happy with how things were with the family there, with her family and everything, but she really did try it, but she tried in a tough love, and anyway, but she wasn't here. I got locked up for, had many nights in the pounders. Me quite often I haven't been been in jail, but I've been locked up for, pissing in public, and did that one twice. I think every alcoholic's had that pissing in public, and then you fight the police, and it all goes well from there. So yeah, I was locked up, and I got out, and I actually rang my dad because I'm born on his birthday. Well, I've got great parents. I said to my dad, I said, "I'm gonna stop drinking," and he goes, "You promise?" I said, "100%. And Mum said, "Oh, do you think you've got a problem, Craig?" She's like, "My mum." Yeah, I said, "Yes, Mum." Because I gave up drinking about 4 years ago before that and said, "I'm going to try," and she never believed me. But this is the first time I actually said I'd give up, because I didn't think it was me without drinking, because I was in the car trade, everyone drank, and, I used to box and ride motorbikes and all the guy things. So, it's, you'd have to be not kind of a man if you didn't drink. I've been a bit of a blokey bloke. And pretty much when I decided to stop, I rang up at the place and went there, and there was, I had to write things down, and, I didn't get to talk, and it was some sort of church-based thing, and that's a massive part of my sobriety. Is that I'm a screaming atheist. I have had bad experiences with, I wasn't touched up by a priest or anything, but I just have had bad experiences with the people in churches not being what they say they are, being not nice people, and go to church, and that's why they're great. So I've got some really close churchy friends. I don't always will be my friends, but I actually got on the phone to AA because actually it was funny. I had a partner years ago, and we used to drink. I remember she used to pick me up from work at a car sales place I worked at. We'd stop every night on the way home. She'd get a bottle of Southern Comfort, and I'd get a bottle of bourbon. And her mum has been part of the AA fellowship for 50 odd years, and she used to say to us, "You're an alcoholic." I said, "No, I can stop any time I like." She goes, "I've never seen you without a drink in your hand." And I say, "Well, because I'm always working. When I'm not working, I have a drink, and I like drinking." And it was quite funny because she said, "But you drink alcoholically." And she said, "I've seen you pour your drinks, and you have half a glass of bourbon and half a glass of Coke." I said, "Well, that's how I like it." And it's just, I thought she was just holier than thou. So I actually rang AA, and the guy answered the phone because I was scared because I thought they were churchy do-gooders. And I answered, the guy that answered the phone in the office, it was actually funny. This guy had all the answers. Really shouldn't be off at the time. He said, I said, I don't drive. And he said, that's okay. He said, you should get to a meeting. And I said, I don't know about this AA meeting stuff. So that's what you do. So when shall I go? He goes, well, come to one. And I said, once again, I don't drive. He said, I'll pick you up. I'm like, this place, pick you up, mate. I thought, well, if the guy's nice enough to pick me up, well, hey, he's nice enough to, he should be nice enough to say yes. So he came along and picked me up and he said, look, just listen. You don't have to say anything, but listen for the similarities, not the differences. Because I said, no, I'm going to interview the church stuff, are you? And he said, no. He goes, it's not a religious program. I said, it's fine. He goes, just don't worry about it. And I was too focusing on like God, because I didn't want to drink at that time, but I'd hit my personal low. As I said, it'd been 25 years of hard drinking. And I got to this meeting and everyone that shared around the table, I could hear something similar in every single one of their shares, whether it be they'd lost money, because I came in with like $34,000 worth of credit card. I hadn't lost my house, but had $34,000 worth of credit card debt. And there was people that lost everything, and, I had lost partners, and my partner wasn't there at the time. She met me at the meeting, and she goes, well, they're nice people. And there was a guy there, and there's a few people there now that have gone, that are really, really dear to my heart. And I don't know if I should say names, but yeah, they were lovely people, including the people that took me there. Some of them were funny as well, so I thought, these are funny guys. These guys are okay. And she goes, look, they're some nice people. And while I took 2 weeks off of work, so a guy said to me, if you can do 90 meetings in 90 days, do it. And you don't have to, I know. But I really wanted to give up. So I thought, well, if I'm not at work, I'm at home. My bottle shop's 4 minutes up the road. So I went to daytime meetings, went to meetings in the night. And even when I couldn't get there, I could ring up someone. Over to the Sunday, I rang up Dennis, and he goes, well, he's got past 2 pick up. I'm like, bloody hell, these guys have got it all covered. And it was, though. People, reached out. People helped. I didn't drive, and it didn't matter. So it was just, like I said, there was many people. My partner at the time, she ended up coming back, and she loved me going to meetings. That's the thing. She actually really did. She said, you're a lot calmer. It was months and months and months, and I was just going on lots of meetings, but I enjoyed it. And I didn't really, but after, there was a time I gave up in the St. Patrick's Day, and there was a time on the 23rd of October that year, I was pissed off. We had a meeting, argument, she pissed off, and I went up, I shouldn't have, because I just went up to play pokies, but I went to the bar and got a bourbon. I had half a thing and a drink and put it down. Like, so what's wrong with it? I said, alcoholic. He goes, oh, they're all alcoholics here. And I shouldn't have, but I actually, on the way home, I rang up someone from the fellowship, and he actually said to me, he said, well, you already decided to take that drink when you decided to walk up the pub. And I said, you have a drink? I said, I ruined it. He goes, me ruined nothing, get back. And I went back to meetings, so I never stopped going, but the problem was I wasn't listening and I wasn't doing the program, because I wasn't calling people when I had issues. So since that day, obviously it's been nothing, but it's still, I got a sponsor, and he said, well, you've got to be, it's an honest program, and you've got to be honest to yourself. You had a drink and you want to be honest, that's it. So I start my sobriety date from that time. But from there, I basically, I suppose, fast forward about 8 months later, I started took over the keys to a fellowship and was going to be secretary for 6 months, and that turned into 2 years. But to be honest, I had to go to there every Tuesday. I helped another guy on the Friday night set up that meeting, and that got you out, and it got you speaking to new people and giving phone numbers. And after that, about 7 years ago, I gave up another job. I finished with a relationship, but still on very good terms with the person I was with. And I don't give this advice to everyone, but starting a new job, a new relationship where people can't look at you as an alcoholic is my personal thing. The job that I've got, I've actually got a really good position now. And the people I work for, it was funny, after 1 year, we went to a function and gentleman said, "Oh, do you want a drink, mate? What should we have at the bar?" He goes, "Mate, you've helped our business, we love you." I said, he goes, "You want a beer?" I said, "No, I don't want a beer." He said, "Do you want a wine?" I said, "I don't want a wine either." He goes, "What do you want?" I said, "I don't drink." And he goes, "But you're a salesman and a good one." I said, "Well," he goes, "you're from the car trade." So why not just not drink? On the way, he said to his wife, he goes, "Like I had 4 years." He said, "Do you know he doesn't drink?" She goes, "Yeah, he's told me." She goes, "Oh," she goes, "What do you think is at work on time?" And they wouldn't be without me, and I wouldn't be without them. But since then, it takes a long time. People respect me and trust me. And, I've got a good outlook, and I don't. I try and put the 12 steps into my life. That's the stage I'm up to now. That's going to 9 years, and it's not the time that I've got up that matters, but it's the quality of my life. Because I noticed after about 2 years, I was walking the dog. I've given up. I was walking the dog, and people have said, "Oh, you've got to be happy with it yourself, and you have to drink to be happy." But I used to think those people were just good as losers. But I was watching the dog, and I could hear, just actually something came over me where I remember it very clearly. I felt really good and very, very happy, not pissed off that I had given up alcohol. And I think it was happy, and cleaned up my house, cleaned up my life, and started exercising and walking the dog and doing meetings. And I just felt just together instead of arguing and having a head that was full of turmoil. But I didn't go to meetings for a while because there was a guy that I thought was not doing the right thing, been in the fellowship for a long time, and we had an argument. And I said, "Well, the guy that you're looking after it, he's drinking," and he goes, "That's my business." And I just let that get in the way of things. So I didn't go to meetings for a while, for probably about a year. And then a guy that was very close to me, that was there when I very first came in, a guy actually rang me up at work one day and said, "You know such and such?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, he's passed away and you're on his contact to call." I thought, bloody hell. And of all the people he knows through Australia, I was the guy that they sent to call. I thought, shit. So I rang up someone else and worked out that he was actually passed away. And I found another dear old friend of mine, old Scottish guy. He was, everyone loves it with everyone. Tough love. I did say to be a pain fest. He gave me a little bit of, tough love, but he was also, honestly, a very caring man as well. I found out that he'd passed away, and what I'd missed, because my A family's important to me. So I'm going back to meetings again, and there's people, that can say why, what can you have gained from not drinking, and it's getting your head out of the turmoil. For me, I work very hard, but I've got a lot of years to make up, and I've got quite a few good toys now, things. I've still got a lot to do. I'm not perfect. I've got a relationship with someone. I've been overseas a few times, and it's coming here at the end of the year, so I can actually handle having a relationship where I don't have to do the fun of being all the time. I can talk to people now. I'm very, very grateful. Recovered alcoholic, or recovering, as I say, never recovered. Very interestingly, a friend of mine said today, I said, I'll look after her. She's a widow. And she knows, I said about Dennis. She said, the funny guy from AA, and you're going to do your thing. She goes, well, I just thought today, she goes, you guys aren't alcoholics anymore. She goes, that's very good, it's good that you've recovered. And I said, no, we're this far away from a drink. She goes, you don't want to drink. I said, no, and I don't plan to. She said, well, he hasn't had a drink for a long time. He wouldn't drink. I've actually discussed with him this morning. There was a guy that used to sit up the back of a meeting. And he used to open up the doors and get the food out. I said, well, we don't hear you share. He said, no. He goes, I'm perfectly cool off sharing, And he was there every week. And he'd do one other meeting as well. And he hadn't had a drink for about 18 months. And he's just always there. I said, he goes, man, I don't want to share. He goes, I'm really cool. He goes, I'm fine. I'm good. And 2 weeks after that, went out and bought 2 bottles of scotch, drank him in one hit, and they found him back. So it's really, you're not ever away from it. My sponsor once was sitting opposite each other's table and he put up a salt pepper shaker. I went to grab it and he said, see, you're that far away from our tree. So it is cunning, baffling and powerful. And it's only since I've started to, I try and just have more meetings now just to remind myself of what I can be and the shit fight I can get back into if I don't keep my sobriety real. Because it's given me a lot, but I've got to give back. And if there's anyone that's listening that's thinking, well, my life won't be fun if I give up drinking, well, even though I don't drive, I've got a few cars that I take to shows. People, all the guys at my club and my friends at the workshops I go to, they go, I've got to get something non-alcoholic for break. And they accept it. I say to them, they say, oh, what, how come you don't drink? I said, mate, what are we fighting? We get on great. I said, mate, we'd be fighting. I'd be punching you or hitting you with something because I'd find some reason I'd be angry. And they go, oh, well, good thing you don't drink. I said, mate, it's a much better life. So, plus, I don't want to get a 10-year anniversary up or anything. I just, one day at a time, I actually still get up every morning, look at myself in the mirror every single day. I don't share this much, but I say, you're not drinking today because this is what you've got. And I'm just happy and very content. And people in the fellowship, they're wide and varied, and I've worked out that I don't love them all. I don't all love me, but I've got some really good friends I can always call.